Good morning. Welcome to Sacred Enzyme. I'm Stacy. Hope you're doing well today. So, I have a whole pile of notes that I've compiled as I was going through my office looking for things. I started finding all things that I jotted down notes on, astral experiences on, different things I'd ran across. So, I want to go through and read all of these notes that I've conglomerated back into just a bunch of, well, basically mishmash nothings of pages of notes. So, let me see real quick. Let me grab my book that I wanted to share with you guys that I just picked up at the library. Oh shoot, where is it? I'll have to come back and do another video on it, but I found some great books at the library for $1.25, and so I'm super excited. So I want to just run through the notes real quick, and then and then we'll go look for the book and we'll do a video on a separate occasion. So who are we? So what we're going to talk about is who we are, where we come from, different things that are finally appearing in the field right now, which I'm super excited about. So we all came from the sun. We all come through the sun. And I've talked about this in past videos, maybe lives, I'm not sure. There's so many videos that have been compiled now, but we all came through the sun because we're light beings, guys. Okay? Everything, the sun is not like what everybody thinks it is. It is a gate to go in and out of. Okay? All planets were born. All planets are consciousness. Okay? Each has its own expression, its own essence. Every planet has its own expression. Even Mother Earth. Mother Earth is a living, breathing, conscious being. She's accessible through the celestial North Pole Gate. Okay, I've talked so much about the Earth's mother, Mother Earth, and her embodiment, how she looks, and the messages I get from her. And if you are interested in any of those, you can go back and look through my catalog of things. But this celestial North Pole Gate is under Greenland. And I've talked about Greenland till I'm blue in the face. This is the polar stargate system, guys. It's our secret exit point. Okay, this is the Polaris Gate. This is where Hyperborea, Eden, Hollow, Earth's inner sun, this all points to the polar gates. So this is our secret exit point, guys, out of the hologram. Okay, so I spent a lot of time there in my astral space. I work predominantly out of the celestial realms. And when I first met the Mother of Earth in her physical embodiment in another realm, she is in a place that does look like a tropical paradise, like an Eden, what I would consider Eden. It's like when I go on, go down to one of the beaches here in Florida, and, I'm down here in this beautiful scenery of beautiful sand, kind of like a Siesta Key beach. It's like where she is. She's like on an island, It's a beautiful tropical paradise, trees and everything. So, there's beautiful water all around her too. So these early Earth humans were small in size. That's the other thing. They look like children of the forest in the Game of Thrones. If you've ever seen that, if you haven't, go back and look, or look on your phone and see who the children of the forest are. They're little small, grown-up ancient beings, but they're in little tiny packages. Okay. Mother Earth looks very much like this, and if you took and smashed a geisha and one of the children of the forest from the Game of Thrones, you would have what Mother Earth embodies when she takes a physical form. And the more I think about it, I think that the geisha in our past timelines, where the women would have their feet broke and all this stuff, and they would dress and they paint their face white, they were trying to look like her because she's a little tiny thing. And I'm sure if she had feet, I've never seen her feet because she's always covered in a blanket. And I don't even know what her body looks like, truthfully. She could have every kind of animal in her body. She could have a physical form. I don't know. I've never seen it. I've only seen what's uncovered. She stays wrapped up, and then I've seen her beautiful face. And she talks to me, but she talks to me telepathically. And we have a conversation, and no sounds ever come out of her mouth, but you can hear a voice. But, yeah, so from a very young age, I have been going through the polar gate, and I was believed to be able to open this gate to get to these other realms. And so this is why I was utilized in programs. And, you know, negative factions have been trying to backdoor these gates for a long, long time. Kind of like, the only way I can explain it is in Supernatural. That whole theme with Castiel and all them, and they're trying to, Crowley's trying to break through the gates to get to heaven. That's literally what they've been trying to do. They've been trying to get through backwards. And people, kids like me, that were born with this coding, because they know who you are before you're born, okay? On the other side, as us in souls, we have been preparing for right now for a long time, because we knew that we had to get out of this cycle, and it was going to take all of our best players to get on the field and clear the field, because the way that it's been told to me is it's time, all the players are coming off the field. You know, this has all been a game, an experiment, a lesson about evolution, evolving our souls to a certain level of maturity and understanding and experience. And it's overdue for that. You know, the people that are here who don't want to leave the pleasure principle realm, it's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. So yes, I was using these programs. Why Greenland? I used to go under Greenland. That's where I was. There's a base under Greenland. Why Greenland and what's coming? That's what I wanted to get the book about. Well, what's coming is a solar flash. Our solar flash is a karmic reset of our earth grid. And I've incarnated over and over, combining 2 bloodlines to arrive here at the end of this cycle and to help in phase shifting, guys. And a lot of you guys are too. A lot of you guys are too. So, I mean, you know, this timeline that we're all in, it's not an accident. Oops, excuse me. It's not an accident that we're all here right now. Sorry about that. These are not my regular glasses. And so, we're here to do a job. We're here to do a job. We're here to transfer and help phase shift the planet into a higher evolved timeline where we can have a reconciliation between the anti-particle version of Earth and the particle version of Earth, where we're merging with our oversoul, basically. Okay. All right. So we will have, and I think it's going to be around July 22nd, which is just in a couple days. And I haven't done a lot of content in a while. And for some reason, there's something been spiritual happening that they've just kind of told me to stay, you know, to stay back, to stay focused on getting the food forest and stuff built. And like, I've been going through a lot of physical changes too. You know, I've been working really hard on this stuff out there, but at the same time, I've been dealing with like a lot of stuff. You know, I'm having a lot of flare-ups with my old injuries. You know, I have a lot of metal in my back, and now I feel like my hip's going out. So, you know, I'm having like a lot of things that are kind of manifesting itself like that, and I'm not sure what exactly that's about, but it's like it's taking a lot of my energy. So I'm trying really hard to stay focused on getting the food forest done, because I feel like that was like the most important thing, is getting all the stuff laid out, getting all the soil down, getting all the seeds put out, you know, so I can be taking it easy, so to speak, that I'm not shoveling and, you know, re-injuring myself over and over again. I just really felt spiritually that getting that taken care of was so imperative to making content. And I'm sorry, you know, that I haven't been here to check in with the community. I'm always thinking of everyone. And, you know, I know we're all working towards the good. And, you know, you guys are always in my thoughts. So we are having a solar flash coming. And it's been piping in a little at a time as all of the different forms of function are coming into our alignment. Because, you know, when you get to this every so many 27,000 years or so, we get to the precession of the equinox. And when this happens, it's when mama comes home. I've talked about this a long time. Mom's home, right? You know, asses are about to get whipped. And that's truthfully the way it is. It's the way it is. When they talk about liberty, like in John Ledyard's journals, where he's talking where he's with Captain Cook. He's talking about how all of these tribes that were all over, that he believed that they were the Tartars, or he said that any one of these people were Tartars, that he hadn't been to Africa yet, but he was pretty sure that they were Tartars, you know, and they all over these islands, they worshipped a goddess called Libertad, and it was liberty above all else. And so this is how all of these liberty things took hold around the 1700s, the late 1700s, with the Randolph family, is that they were trying to usher in another Enlightenment period. Okay, and you always are going to have opposing forces. It doesn't matter what it is. We can't exist in this reality if we do not have polarity, guys. We're being held together with opposing forces to exist. This is why it's important that we help the planet raise a vibration to ascend. Because when these cycles come around, we have an opportunity to reunify with our anti-particle version of Earth. And when that happens, that's great. We want to do that. We're not living in a constant state of duality, guys. And this is why I say embodying what you want to be, embodying the 13th archetype is imperative, because we are creating this in real time, guys. When we're not sitting on our butts talking about everything that's wrong and everything that needs to be changed, instead of absolutely getting up off of our butts and getting out there and changing what's wrong and getting involved and making a difference to make things right, then you are no longer part of the solution. You're just part of the problem, guys. You have to get off your tails. You got to make time. Yeah, I hear it. I don't have time to eat good. I don't have time to do a garden. Yes, you do. You got time to be on the internet. You take all of that time, and let's not lie about it. Let's take all of the time that's spent on the internet, scrolling. Just cancel all of your accounts, right? Your social media accounts. All that is surveillance anyway, if you want to ask me. I've been collecting everything about you since you started putting your whole life story and your kids' pictures and everything on Facebook. I stopped putting my children's pictures on Facebook without their permission after a certain age, because I started thinking, you know what? Something's not right about this. And the way people act on social media, something's not right about that either. You know, they portray this life that they're not even embodying. It's such a joke. This is why I think social media is such a freaking joke. It's just a joke. These people are all wasting all this time pretending to be something they're not. Truly, there are very few genuine people that are on social media, on Facebook. You know, people are constantly posting content on there. They're either trying to teach people something, or they just need affirmations for themselves because they haven't done their shadow work. So, don't let me get on a tangent, but everybody has time to get more involved with the planet and get your kids outside. So from a very young age, I was going through the polar gate. I was utilized in programs to open the gate to these higher celestial realms. Negative forces have been trying to backdoor these celestial gates for a very long time to avoid what's coming. Why Greenland? And what's coming? A solar flash. Our solar flash is a karmic reset of our Earth grid, guys. This is when this karmic reset is done, we retriangulate our Earth back into the pattern that it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be in an energy triangle. Earth is supposed to be in an energy triangle with good Saturn, with good Venus, and instead of what we're in now. We're in unbalanced Saturn in a Nibiru lock. And so we have to dissolve this lock by replacing Nibiru with Venus in this triangulation. So we're stuck with Saturn. We are in a false overlay of Saturn, which is embodying an Archonic. And this is one of the other things that I wanted to talk about, is that maybe Archons are the inverted versions or the unbalanced versions of our planet's form of function. Hear me out. Okay, so our false overlay is in a triangular lock with Saturn as the warden, which is the opposite or the unbalanced Saturn, Mars, which is war, which is the unbalanced Mars, and Nibiru, which is chaos, okay? The organic overlay is a triangular lock correction that we need to make, which is Saturn. Healthy Saturn is the circle keeper. These are healthy boundaries. This is why it's important for us to do our shadow work in our life, because a lot of us that are here for helping with ascension, we don't know how to have boundaries. We let people take way too much of our energy, and we have to learn healthy boundaries, okay? Mars is supposed to be your protector. And the wolf shield, guys, the wolf shield. This is why the 13th archetype, one of the embodiments, is this wolf, the wolf, Fenrir. It's the protector. It either tears everything down or we just go right back into the same old thing. So we have to make sure that we are turning Mars into a protector instead of a warmonger. Okay, right now we have an unbalanced Mars, but I'm seeing a lot of men right now that are stepping into their balanced Mars, right? This has been coming for a long time. You got this Andrew Tate that's teaching an unbalanced Mars archetype, right? Because, you know, we have to have these people, these huge personalities to kind of keep us going in the wrong direction a little bit, you know, with little kernels of truth. We have to have balanced Mars. We have to have real men. We need to make men again. Proper men, right? And women. We need proper women, okay? This is the healer and the lover, okay? I'm not trying to run the world, okay? I'm trying to take care of being what I'm meant to be, and that's a midwife, a nurturer and a seeder, bringing love and nurturing to the planet. The balanced Venus aspect, not the negative Venus aspect, not Venus on steroids where it's toxic and smothering and excessive, right? That's Lucifer, guys. This is what I'm saying. So are the negative inversions of the planets in this timeline what our archonic forces are? And is it up to us to flip them? Yeah, sure. We have to use our spoken words because our words are spells. Saturn circles sacred. Mars guards love. Venus completes the triangle. And Nibiru is neutralized. We have to think and manifest this reality, guys. Okay? So, let me get back to this. So, this solar flash is a karmic reset. And it's a reset of our Earth grid. A lot of us have been incarnating over and over again, lifetime after lifetime, for thousands of years just to get here right now. Just like kind of like the women in that show called Dune. But you know, that exact scenario has been happening on my mother's side. And when my grandmother bilocates me, sometimes she brings the ladies, and this is all of the women that go back into the maternal line of my family. I mean, I don't even know how many of them, like 25, 50 of them she brings with her. And they all sit in seats in rows, and they don't speak. They're just there to observe. It's a bunch of women. And then my grandmother, she's always to the front, and we go somewhere. She'll bilocate me someplace. Like the last time that she brought the ladies, she bilocated me to Miami, because that's where my mom's from. My mom and her father, you know, it's 5 generations practically from Florida in my family. So my mom grew up there, and my grandmother brought the ladies, and she bilocated me down there, and she showed me a scenario of something that happened to my mother that I wasn't aware of. And so she wanted me to talk to her about it. So I felt like that was pretty important, because I felt like that healed up some type of thing that might have been energetically attached to my mother, you know. So anyway, it was, you know, it's interesting. It's interesting how you get little bits and pieces of these things, and then it comes into a whole picture, you know. So we are here to, and you know, they're all nurturing women in my family line, you know, nurses and things like that. And so that was what we're supposed to be bringing here, the midwifery, the nurturing aspect back into the field, because it's missing. It's missing and it's trying to be eliminated, okay? So it's helping phase shift the Earth to its original timeline, which was organic. It was organic, okay? So Mother Earth wakes and returns her to her timeline, and her frequency dissolves the false overlay that's on the Earth right now. So this is going to be a lot of changes with our weather, you know, and this is how the cycles are, guys. We're living in a hologram. You know, just like I've talked about before, that what if the flood was, they just flood us from the inside out, guys? Do you honestly think that we're going to run out of water? Don't sit and manifest a reality where we're going to run out of water, because we'll run out of water, guys. Don't do that, okay? You're actively manifesting your reality. Don't let our water get polluted, but don't have this firm belief that we're going to have water scarcity, because we're absolutely not. There's tons of water inside of the Earth. There's big holes all over the Earth, and people wonder, where do these holes go? Well, I truly believe that those are drainage holes for when the Earth has to be flooded, guys. You know, there's all kind of technology that's involved, that's happening all the time in different dimensions, vibrational spaces that you do not have perception to with your eyesight. Okay, this is why it's important to work on all of these other senses that we have and get them all tuned in. You know, intuition is so important, and having good intuition is really important. Okay, so this is the false overlay, and it's the final integration of polarity. And I believe that this first started really happening on Lunar New Year, guys. And I really feel like that we did the right thing when we all went on fast, and we fasted without any blood in our diet until the 17th. And then, you know, we tied on our red thread, guys, right? We decided we totally made a commitment to embody the 13th archetype at that time, right? And I feel like that really made a huge difference in the field. I really do. I think that that was what started the ball rolling, is that we had the marriage, right? We put on our wedding garments. We had the coming back together of mommy and daddy in the solar system. So, the solar flash will finish our polarity integration. Those coded will wake up. There's always going to be people that are not going to wake up, guys. There's not going to be people that are going to wake up, and that's just the way it is. Okay, so if there's people that haven't already awakened, there's a lot of people that are waking up right now, and all through the month of July, you'll see like incredible amount of people that you never thought in your lifetime would they come around, will start coming around. The Greenland exit plan is their escape route, okay? This is the back door out of the hologram, guys. So what will happen is, if we stay on this trajectory, which we are on this trajectory right now, lower vibrational beings will not be able to stay here, because they will virtually starve to death, okay? So we had this polarity overlay installed for a duality experiment in 3D. So this is basically what we're in, a biological meat suit. It's been upgraded many, many times to be able to take higher soul expressions, because this is the place where you can come and experience physical reality with the senses, okay? When you don't have a body, you can't experience pleasure. Earth is the pleasure principle. This is why she's a woman. This is why she's influenced by Venus, okay? This is the place that you can come to have the pleasure principle. It's the sex planet. I call it that all the time. Sex planet is Earth, okay? Whether we're going to have, and I just got a thump from Theo, whether we're going to have imbalanced or balanced, it is what it is, okay? We bring life forth in this realm through our womb. Everything here is born through the womb. And that's one of the things that's the problem with what we've been in Up until recently, as we've started turning this around, people have not been aware that there has been an absolute, I mean, extremely focused attempt at totally inverting the natural order of the womb. C-sections, IVF, surrogates, cloning, all of this is to bypass the living waters of the womb. Okay, there's calibration, spiritual calibration that happens in there. There are very important things that happen when a baby comes through the birth canal. So mothers, it's really important for you to try to have those babies the right way through the womb. Okay. So early Earth humans were genetically hybridized with dragon bloodlines, 2 lines from sisters with 1 male progenitor, Anu. The Earth humans were from the original light beings who came from the primordial Earth Mother. Like Mother Earth said, she said, I'm the Mother of Earth, and you come from me. I said, okay. I'm thinking, okay, all right. So I got to think about what all that means. But as times went by, she just downloads it in my head, everything that it means. And then, you know, I'm at these places at night. Theo and I don't know what our form is. You know, when I first started seeing my oversoul, he's just a huge light being. And then Theo manifested into 3-dimensional reality one time when I was being attacked after I came home from a really, I had a huge abdominal surgery, and I came home from the hospital, and I just got home, got settled in bed, and I got attacked by this thing. Only thing I could describe it as, it kind of looked like a gargoyle. And it kind of looked like that thing that's in that painting called The Nightmare. You can Google it. It's a Renaissance painting. It kind of reminded me of that and a gargoyle smashed together. And it had long teeth and claws, and it was clawing at me, and it was making these horrible smacking and gobbling sounds. It was just terrible. Ugh, it was so gross, and it had all this slobber dripping down. I mean, it was bad, like that dog and Turner and Hooch. Those big ribbons of slobber, it literally was like that. It was cackling. It was just awful. And Theo reached through the roof and pulled it off of me, and literally his hand was like, oh my gosh, 3.5 feet wide. The whole roof peeled back into, it was like, the veil broke. And I seen his hand come in, he grabbed it with 2 fingers and threw it. And I watched that thing go flying, just like through black space. I could see stars and everything, and it just went, and then it just disappeared, just kept going, never stopped. And then the hand came out, and the ceiling went right back to normal. But I mean, I've had interesting things, you know, when I've been in these other realms. And so, you know, these Earth humans were from original light beings. You know, they were light beings. And so we came through the sun. And when Mother Earth embodied the Earth planet, the way that I understand it, it's almost like a sacrifice, okay? They have to sacrifice their body so the essence of their soul expression can be made material, okay? This is why the Earth is called the Emerald Heart, because our Mother Earth, her heart is emerald, and it's in the center of Earth, and that is her, that's like almost like her corpse, is what you would want to say, crystallized, like the crystal technology in Atlantis. Those were celestial beings that materialized into stone to be able to use them as a way to create the reality, to build onto the reality. I hope that makes sense. And this is the same way with all of the planets. That's why they all have certain forms of function, because they are their own unique personality. And so everything is built on their energy. But, you know, everybody runs on cycles, just like men run on cycles, women run on cycles. We all have cycles with women have cycles with their female parts. Men have cycles with their male parts. Right? You know, you get to a certain age and your glands don't make as much as they used to, right? Women can't have children anymore. Men get older and their testosterone drops, right? So, you know, we have cycles in our body. Our body resets our, you know, our DNA changes cycles. Like, I think it's like every 7 years. You can totally rebuild yourself. Every 7 years, you have a way to like slaw it off, you know. But, you know, we've all started as light. And then the planets are basically the essence of that crystallized. And then those crystals, this is why I think that when Jesse Sabotar talks about the kids that are abducted and missing, that they turn them into diamonds, lab-created diamonds, and they sell them on the black market. It's the same thing as like crystal technology. It's the same thing as like a crystal. You know, that's energy in there. That's energy of intelligence that's operating that stone. Okay, so let me get on to it. So yeah, so the original Earth humans were light beings. They came from, you know, who came from primordial Earth, mother, that were originally here on Earth when Earth first began. Later, there were women that were tasked with arranging unions, and they were called midwives. And they were also took care of seeds and births of animals and different things like that. And they've been part of the spiritual and soul agreement to pass knowledge and codes from mother and daughter every generation. And so, like I said, this was my mother's line. There are celestial hybrid beings that I've seen bilocating. And one of these, I think, has to do with this line of women. And it's on my mom's side. And it's also on my dad's side, ironically, and it's coded in their name, Ray. Ray. Like people say, the Ra God, it's Ray. It's not Ra, it's Ray. R-A is Ray. Ray, like a sun ray. They came through the sun, guys. It's not Ra, so stop saying Ra. Give the name the right vibration. It's a sun ray. This is the new archetype that's been introduced into the field. It's the bird. It's Horus. Horus. Okay, so I have seen these bird beings, and I've tried to figure out something that looked close to it, and up until I finally just did a picture of it myself, the only thing I could say that remotely resembled it was on Ronin 47 with Keanu Reeves, that Tengu Master. That's what she looked like. She kind of looked like that. The nose was spot on with those holes up there. It was a bird nose. That was the thing that caught me off guard, was the eyes are like reptile eyes. That was what was weird. So I kind of wonder if the bird beings were the ones that created the reptiles. I think maybe they did, you know. So she has like feathers for hair, and it's white. And then she had this bird beak, and she had these golden, I mean golden, beautiful golden amber eyes, and they were huge. And then they had like snake pupils in them, and I was like, whoa, that set me back, right? And then she put her hand up and she pointed her finger like that, and I had no idea what she was going to do. I put my hand up like this, but I was bilocated with my mother, and we were bilocated to this beautiful place. I mean, it was all nature, and it was like horse country. It's like if you drive up to Ocala, and you know, you go up the, you know, the old roads, and there's just nothing but horse country out there, and it's just rolling hills and tall, beautiful grass and stables. That's exactly like it was. And I was walking through there with my mother, and we seen this bird being. She just appeared out of nowhere, and she didn't say anything, but I think she gave me an activation. But you know, there was some type of connection that had to do with my mother and not my father, because otherwise I wouldn't have been bilocated with my mother, right? So I know that these bird beings have to do with the sun, and it has to do with my mom side of the family, the women. And so I do have an illustration that I made, and I can show you guys. I can post it on the channel if you care. So there's a man named Michael Sarian, and he talks about these, he talks a lot about Atlantis. But he was talking about the Celtic Druids being in possession of the mysteries and being one of the priest classes of Atlantis. And we've talked about this in a lot of old videos about Atlantis and the Bible in the Pyramid Theory by Connor McDarry. The secrets of the mysteries. My dad has the book. I finally found that book. My dad's got it. I got to go get my Connor McDarry back and my my other 2 Atlantis books. I've got a Ignatius Donnelly and another one that my dad's got. I wanted him to read it, and I forgot that I'd given it to him, and I finally tracked it down to him. But anyway, he says that these priest classes of Atlantis were actually these druids, and they were called Ammonites. Ammonites, guys. Ammonites. They were in possession of weapons of mass D. Yes, and that's why Rome never effed with them. This is the real reason why. They had a relationship with the people in the underground. And so, you know, they had weapons from down there. You know, he was talking about it being like a forge, and just like what you see in Game of Thrones, you know, except probably not that most fantastical, but you know, that they have ability to make high frequency weapons, right? So yeah, nobody messed with the Celts. And, you know, and if you go back to the Tyubian prophecy, you'll see that that's where those people that crash landed here, that, you know, I don't think they were from Venus. They were from Tyubia, but I don't know what that is or where that is. But, you know, they crash landed here and they couldn't get back home. So they had to stay here. So they were refugees. And that's what I've said the Earth is. Earth lets everybody come here. It's like the grandma that you know you can always go stay with if you get kicked out on the street, right? Even if it's not really your grandma, right? It's that one person that has open arms. This is Earth. Earth is a one-size-fits-all throwback system. But it's about to not be no more, because the vibration's coming up. And so we can't keep taking care of everybody, right? You guys got to do your ascension work on your planets. And stop trying to monkey around and be in control of everything. And then you end up having to be reset. And then you got to come back here, you know, and start your karmic journey off. Okay, it's time for us to get it together, guys. So we've got these Celtic Druids being in possession of this stuff. And so we've got, and from what I'm interpreting, it's possibly these bloodlines of what we got, Enki, E-N-K-I, from the Anunnaki, and Eve. Eve, the first genetically modified, upgraded human woman. So like I've talked about, is that our genetic codes have been upgraded and upgraded and upgraded and upgraded and upgraded over time, because we needed to be able to carry more soul expression before everything got turned on. Okay, so there were a lot of things that were introduced into us. Some of the things did not come in order. The archetypes are supposed to come in order, like they show up on the hero's journey back here. You get it. Your archetypes are given to you one at a time, kind of like in an envelope. So you know what the embodiment requires. The field always offers it to you, what the embodiment is required to take the hero's journey along, right? So you always have 2 opposing things. It's whatever the mass amount of people choose to put their focus on is what will manifest. This is why we have all of this predictive programming, guys. You can't fall for it. Okay, so we had these 2 bloodlines, but the way that I understand it is that Eve, she was the first one, the first female that they had upgraded from the previous human forms. And see, there were people that were here, and I really think that how this mixes in, and I'll get to that, is through this original experiment. Okay, so hear me out here. So I've talked about how Enki fell in love with his creation, Eve, right? And he decided to breed with her. So he hybridized with her, but she was an upgraded model, okay? All right, so this created a serpent bloodline with a lab-created mother, okay? So she gave birth to Cain, right? And so Cain was very high Anunnaki blood, okay? So Cain married Lilva, Lilibah is a senior heiress to the matriarchal house of the dragon, guys. Their sons were Enoch and Atana. The starfire came from there. This is the blood rituals. They used to drink menstrual blood. It was their pharmaceuticals. This is how they stayed healthy. This is how they lived a long time. This is what they're doing now. It's just that it's been perverted, okay? They don't do starfire rituals anymore. They take it against the will with terror to harvest trinitrum. So, you know, these are practices that come from the Anunnaki, okay? Starfire rituals. They carried the celestial blood, and so they could drink it, okay? The mothers. Okay, so there was, originally we had the situation where we had Anu, A-N-U, who came here. He's from another system. And then he had a consort called Antu, A-N-T-U. Okay. All right. Anu had 3 children, but the way that I understand it is that they were all halves. Okay. We've got Enki, E-N-K-I, E-N-L-I-L, and then a sister, N-U-H-U-R-S-A-G, Nunhursag, N-U-N, I think it's N-U-H-N-U-H-U-R-S-A-G, but they also called her Ninti and Ninma. Okay, so what I think is that this daughter was actually part Earth human, or she was part Palladian or Syrian. And the reason I say that is because somehow or another, the Earth human genetics got in there. And so I think it has to be from this sister wife, because they all had children with their sisters, and it was all about codes. See, this is what we got to understand, that this was all about code exchanging. So Nunhursag and Enki, they went into a creation chamber, and they created Adam and Eve. Okay, so Eve essentially went with Enki, who created her, and also Adam. Okay, so then you got 2 bloodlines there. Okay, so then you have Nunhursag, who had children with Enki and children with Enlil, because they all did it with their sister. Okay, they kept it in the family, right? Just like some of these do now, right? So Enki and Nunhursag worked together in a creation chamber to produce genetically altered humans, which were Adam and Eve. So we essentially have 3 groups. Well, 4 groups. We had Earth humans before they came here. They were non-modified, like Bigfoot, Dogman, different things, different animal hybridized creatures, right? And then some family bloodlines that came from these through, you know, natural orientation, where they were from these original Earth humans, and they bred with modern, genetically altered, the new humans that were created. And so you had first shape-shifting family lines. You had shapeshifters. You still had enough of the genetic material sometimes passed on to one of the children that they could morph their form. This is when the vibration of the planet was a little higher. You could take, you know, a different shape if you had the right genetics switched on. Okay, so we had Adam and Eve's line, which was Abel, or Abel. Then you have Eve and Enki's line, which is Cain, and then Enoch. Okay, so then you've got Enlil with Nunhursag, who has Ninurta. And so you've got all of these different groups. So you've got pre-Earth humans, you've got the sister wife human line, you've got the Enlil line, you've got the Enki line. And then you also have Enki's first child, Marduk, from his wife, Damkina. And so I'm starting to wonder if Damkina was actually one of these Venusian high priestesses, because there are different, there's different stories that talk about Poseidon, and how Poseidon's wife was very jealous, and the story of Medusa, right? Because she could turn men to stone. She could give them a hard-on, because she was she was created in the lab, right? She was the Eve. She was hot. They modeled these chicks just like they wanted them to look, right? They wanted them to look beautiful. But, you know, they wanted them to be able to hold higher celestial genetics. So maybe that's why they were what we call more beautiful, right? They were more appealing because they had the it factor, or whatever you want to call it. So we have this story about this jealousy that's happening because Poseidon is married to, what's her name? Starts with an A. Athena? Is it Athena? I can't remember, but it's one of the goddesses that's embodied by Venus. And so then you start thinking, okay, so we've got a lot of stuff we got a lot of lines here, you know, from these early groups that have spread out where we've made these changes and upgrades to be able to introduce these archetypes, these different archetypes into the field for the ascension. Okay, so this group that Michael is speaking about is being the rebels who refused to submit to being slaves. And that they were too intellectual. So these group, when Enlil and Enki were here, and they did this whole experiment, and Enki ended up reproducing with his creation that was from the creation chamber with his sister, Eve. What ended up happening was they had more codes turned on, right? And so the children, that was Cain, they were like, we ain't doing this. So that's why they got kicked out. That's why they got kicked out. They went and started their own thing. So he's saying, he hypothesizes is that this was actually Lemuria. Was, you know, and then they ended up teaching these mysteries back of, hey, this is the way it really is. This is, you don't need to do this. That this is what happened. They were teaching the mysteries to the Atlanteans. And so you had two different conflicting priest class in Atlantis. That's where, part of the duality experiment, they decided they were going to drop us down one more rung into a super fragilistic espialidocious third dimensional crystalline space, and then just take the whole thing apart. So Eve was possibly, you know, our first Amy. And I've talked about this before, and I get the term Amy. I will give props to Jessica Morocco for the Amy acronym, because I truly believe that's 100% spot on. Is that, and it's written all through Hollywood. There's tons of celebrities who have one child named Amy, spelled any different form. There's about 1 million different songs that have been written in the past that talk about Amy. You can go back and look. And I was telling her this too. I'm like, yeah, you should see the list of songs that have been written about Amy's. Oh, just like Britney Spears. Have you seen Amy? Yeah. Her clone, guys. Her clone. That's what they call them. They're artificial intelligent mother. And entity, intelligence, you know, an artificially intelligent mother that is not real. It's an Amy. It's a fake. It's a clone, right? So that's what they call them. They call them Amy's, which, you know, we had upgrades that were done to this form, and it was to be able to carry a higher soul expression. But at the time, it was done for selfish reasons. It was to modify these people to make them more useful. But the first batch was a little too smart, so they had to go back and do another batch, right? And these, they got to turn down the volumes on it, because these guys were a little too smart the first time, so they ran off and did their own thing. So let's turn the dials down a little bit so we can make a bunch of stupid idiots and make them all work. So this is when they created the second batch. So, you know, we had a second batch, and these would have been Abel or Hebel. And there was no death or murder, according to him, just contrived bloodlines for earth rulership. Or actually, that was from Lawrence Gardner. Lawrence Gardner said there was no death or murder in the garden between Cain and Abel, who were only half brothers. It was just a contrived bloodlines for Earth rulership. That's all it is. Just setting up these two groups, pitting them against each other. So we've got our duality groups right here, right? You've got these duality groups. And even now, I mean, you look at it, you still have these groups that fight over who the original inheritor was. Was it Adam? I mean, was it Abraham's first son, or his the son that he had with his wife, or the one he had with his concubine? You know, who has the right? We all are inheritors of the earth, folks. This is our birthright. The earth is our birthright as stewards to the planet, okay? So we had already setting it up then. So Cain and Lilith, his line branched out. Bouncing back to Michael Sarian, speaking of this rebel group leaving and starting another civilization where they lived independently in Lemuria. They then taught mysteries to the Atlanteans. We had the two Atlantean groups opposed. They later ended in a war. The North Pole was destroyed by a weapon. I thought that, yeah, you know, I know that the Earth had something really bad thing to happen, and we were at the North Pole and it got destroyed, and everybody had to come out of there. And that's when I got separated from Theo. I drowned. And he did it. He survived, but I drowned. And I've had memories of that happening, of being just swept away in massive amounts of water. And the people ended up going in between the 30 and the 33 degree lines on the planet. There was a band through the middle of Earth that, you know, everybody just kind of had to go to because the poles got cold. And, you know, because they used to be warm. Earth used to be beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, tropical, food everywhere. Nobody had to have gardens or animal husbandry. The whole earth was a garden, guys. It was a garden. If you got hungry, you picked a piece of fruit off the tree. You know, everything was as it should. It was organic. It wasn't controlled, contrived. It wasn't out of balance, archonic forces at work. It was the natural organic timeline, which is really beautiful. And I'm so looking forward to going back there where there's just fruit trees everywhere and no one's without, and everything's clean and everybody's heart is clean. It's really nice. So everyone left there. Oh, Theo just thumped me. And so what they ended up doing was, you know, at first they were beating rocks together, and then they found all the natural copper deposits, so they were able to, and you had help. We had people that were able to come from the higher celestial realms, you know, the higher vibrational realms into materiality on the third dimension, because it had actually shifted. You know, when you clean all the shit off and it don't stink anymore, you know, you can have people over, kind of like that. It opens the door, you know, to have clean things come in. So our memories are locked up in the ice. And so as this ice melts, people are going to start getting switched on, baby. So, you know, you Scorpios that are not switched on yet, you're about to be switched on. You Cancers, all you water signs. Because, you know, Pluto is coming in. And so that's some deep emotional stuff right now, guys. So you guys got to hold on to your hats. You know, this is all about, you know, getting everybody to remember. And we got to deal with our shadow work. We really do. So as the ice melts, the memories are coming online. Our memories, if we're phase shift, prepping and getting our downloads, are going to come in fast and furious, my friends. So, you know, I talked about us being biological meat suits, housing a soul. We dock to the mainframe. This is why we have to go to sleep at night. This is why you will die if you don't go to sleep. You have to sleep. You have to connect back to source. So we're all existing in many different timelines. And they're all happening all right now. Whether you aware of them or not. We are only in time right here. Right here. So the last time that I was here incarnated on Earth, my last lifetime that I just came into, I think that I either came from Venus or I came from Polaris or Antares. I'm kind of getting that, like, getting cleared up. I have a very strong connection to Venus. And I don't know if this is just because I come from the world mother and there's some kind of twinning connection that has to do with Earth and Venus. And, you know, Venus is everything to our ascension. Incorporating the heart space back into Earth is what is going, we can't do ascension without it, guys. We cannot do ascension without Venus. And the entire planet is coded for Venus. The 5-pointed star is everywhere. The star forts, everything. The whole planet is Venus encoded. And if you haven't seen my video on the whole planet is secretly encoded in Venus and we don't even know it, you got to go back and watch it, because everything on our planet is Venus encoded for us right now, guys. It's all been put here for us. Okay? So, let's see. Let me just skip through some of this because this video is getting long. So we once had an original organic timeline on Earth, which has been mirrored backwards. 1111, guys. Right? How many of us have been seeing 1111? It's time to wake up. It's what it means. Your reality's been mirrored backwards. Okay? We have to reach the heart space to alchemize gold to gold. This happens by embodying the Christ consciousness that is the 13th archetype. We have to put on our red thread to hold balance between duality. 13 is the lunar number's mother. 13 periods. 13 periods in a year. 13 full moons, 13 full moons in a year. And then every 28 days is a female monthly cycle. You know, and I know that the moon that we have now is a fake installation. But we had a moon originally that belonged to us. But something happened to it and it crashed. It crashed down. So, you know, all of these are expressions, and we've got to heal the fractured moon feminine aspect. And so, you know, it all has to do with the heart space, and it has to do with Venus. And so, you know, the other thing that I wanted to talk about was the twinning. And I've talked about twinning a lot on here. And I've talked about Aldebaran and Venus, you know, because we are in a Venus reality right now that's inverted, guys. You know, we have to incorporate balanced Venus back into Earth. 8 is the number of Earth. 5 is the number of Venus. 5 plus 8 is 13. That's the magic number. That's how we get out of the shitter. We have to embody the 13th archetype. Okay? So the thing with these two different groups is that you have these groups that are from Aldebaran. And, you know, I think that when it just ultimately goes back, we were just light beings, guys. All of this outer shell stuff, this is all just where we've been and the field that's existed. Okay? They're all just creations. It's the soul that's inside, guys. We've been everywhere. So we ended up with two different groups that are holding polarity here. You know, and the thing about it is that it's taken us so long to get here that now they don't want to go. They don't want to go. So we're like torn between two lovers, feeling like a fool. You know, loving both of them is breaking all the rules. And you remember that song? So yeah. So yes, we have to love them both and break all the rules, because we're torn between two lovers right now. So we have to put on our wedding garments. So I was talking about us being in a triangulation, right? And that we're in an inversion, right? And one of the things that Mother Earth has talked about is that everything with Germany needs to be taken apart, and that this Germany, understanding everything about Germany and their history, and I don't know if they're talking about, she means like during the Holocaust or the Berlin stuff that happened in Berlin, I'm not sure, but she said that was going to be so important to the future of the world. That's what she said. Taking apart the past of Germany is going to be so important to the future of the world. That's what she said. So, you know, we have Saturn before an inversion, and then we have Saturn after the inversion. Saturn wasn't always the villain that it is now. In a golden age, in a high vibration space, Saturn was the planet of protection and structure. And see, that's why I talk about on this Fibonacci spiral, when we start going into these expanded numbers, when we step into the 13th archetype and we start embodying, we start going into these expanded numbers that are in the Fibonacci spiral. And one of them is, we have to go back and visit Saturn to reconfigure the triangulation and change the pattern, right? We've got to change the artificial overlay back into the organic one, okay? So we have to flip it. We have to flip it. So Saturn's true job is a circle keeper. It's not a jail, okay? Not a prison, not a prisoner, not a jailer, you know? We are supposed to be coming into the circle keeper, the protection of Saturn, okay? Embodying the reality that we want to experience gets us there, guys, okay? And so, you know, when we had this inversion take place, when we got locked into this triangulation, this unhealthy triangulation, that's when we get these stories of Kronos, right? And this castration of the horns, and basically that's the fallopian tubes of Mother Earth. And, you know, is that when something happened to the moon and it destroyed the feminine aspect? And maybe the moon was what fell into Earth. Maybe Tiamat might have been like our moon mommy. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure all of that out, and I'm still asking for answers. So, you know, Aldebaran lines were these red wolf bull protectors, and they scattered to hold fragments of the source code. But we have a lot of these people that are carrying these codes that have been taken into these programs. And so what's ended up happening is everything's kind of been head off at the pass, right? And it's up to us to wake up. So our false overlay is the triangular lock of Saturn, which is inverted, which is the warden now, the jailer instead of the circle keeper. Mars, which has also been inverted, which is war now instead of our protector, right? Instead of our protector. We've got a war Mars, we got an inverted Mars. And then we got Nibiru, right? This is where the Anunnaki set up shop, and they put us in this triangulation, flipped us upside down, and turned us into a harvesting center. Okay, so our organic overlay is a triangular lock correction, where Saturn is now the circle keeper. Mars is the protector wolf shield, the 13th archetype, guys. And Venus is the healer lover. This is number 5. This is the emerald heart. You know, this is getting to the heart of the matter, guys. This is a balanced Lucifer where we have the morning dawn and the evening dawn, not just one or the other. They're equally balanced. The morning and the evening are in balance, right? They're in the red thread. So we dissolve the lock by replacing Nibiru with Venus. In this triangulation, by visualizing Saturn's rings as golden circles again, and calling Mars back into its role of guardian. We need all the wolves to get back to being what they're supposed to be. You know, so the spoken key again. Saturn's circles sacred. Mars guards love. Venus completes the triangle. And Nibiru is neutralized, okay? We don't want Nibiru in there anymore. So we want only the sacred circles of Saturn, the love guarding Mars aspect, and the Venus as the completing principle, because the original template was 2 male, 1 female. That's how it works. Just like the triangulation in the organic pattern is 2 male, 1 female. Venus as the female, as the mother aspect, Mars as the spouse aspect, the consort, and Saturn as the protector, the ring, the circle keeper, the boundary keeper, okay? So we had, in the past, you know, we had these Babylonian Tiamat story, which is Ocean Mother, and it's slain by Marduk. And we talked about Marduk being the child that was born from Anu's son Enki. Enki and his real wife. And the question is who is she? Demika. And where does she come from, right? And was she Anunnaki or was she Earth human? Who was she? Does anybody know? I'd love to know if anybody has anything on that. Be curious, because you've got these lines where this genetic material is coming in, and it's, you know, we've got different groups here, and they've been here all this time. Okay, so Kronos cuts the horn, it says in the story, and so Venus rises from the womb. So this is the bull that carries the Pleiades, or the 7 sisters, on her back. So, you know, we've got these 7 sisters. So these are forms of influence of priestess type stuff. So Venus is our template to getting back and expanding the heart space. And so I think that I pretty much went over all of that. You know, I do believe that, in my opinion, that Melania is coded the same way that I am for the celestial North Pole. And I don't think it's a mistake that that's why she got married to Trump, is that, you know, I think that Trump is Aldebaran. I think he's from Aldebaran. And I think that's why his son's name is Baron. Because if you spell Aldebaran, it looks like Aldebaran. A-L-D-E or A-L-D. Yeah, A-L-D-E-B-A-R-O-N, I think is how it's spelled. So it's totally barren on the end. And so, you know, what you have barren is a combination of Aldebaran and celestial North Pole mother coding, you know, because she's at Polaris. So is Baron a time traveler? Is he walking through realms? Probably. He's walking through the Greenland gate. Probably. So, you know, it's not the first time that we've had people. I mean, I did a story where I read this about, this was off of the CIA, sanitized copy from the CIA files, and this talks about these 2 people who said that they were star people visiting Earth. And you can go back and look at my old video on that. I'm not going to read that, but you know, these triangulations are very important, and we have them all over Earth too. We have them in the United States. This is why the United States is going to be very, very important to the ascension of the whole planet. And I've talked about the 80 to 82 degree longitudinal line that runs from the North Pole all the way down through the South Pole, and it goes through Florida, and it goes through different places, and that these spots on here are very sacred spots that have to do with ascension. And, you know, the Great Lakes is the crown, the Blue Ridge is the heart, and the Florida Ridge is the root. And so we are embodying the crown, the heart, and the root. So we would be, you know, we would be in a feminine water triangle, right? And then, now listen to this. We have a masculine solar triangle that mirrors this one. And that is in Utah, which is the crown, Arizona, Phoenix, Scottsdale, which is the heart, and Sonora, Baja, or Los Cabos corridor, which is the root. So if you get out a map and you triangulate those places, you're going to see that there's some very interesting things that have happened there recently on those spots. So yeah, archons, are they unbalanced manifestations of planets? Is, you know, this creating archonic forces? It's something that we need to explore. I think it's very interesting, because an unbalanced Mars is war. An unbalanced Venus is like Lucifer, right? Unbalanced Saturn is Satan. An unbalanced moon, who knows? I mean, I got to go through and think about what these different archons would be for these planets, like unbalanced Earth, you know? So unbalanced Jupiter, unbalanced Mercury. You know, Mercury's all about communication. So, you know, obviously you're having a communication problem if you're an unbalanced Mercury. That would be like slander. That would be lack of justice, probably. So, you know, I'm going to work on this today because I have to rest my back. I've probably told y'all before, but I've had 2 back surgeries, so I'm metal from my waist all the way down. And so, you know, sometimes I try to push it too much, and I end up hurting myself. But I've been having like a lot of problems and flare-ups recently, like the last, I don't know, 6 months. And I was going to yoga, but it was getting so bad that even when I would go to yoga, I would just be trembling all over because I couldn't get into the form because of my nerve endings were too inflamed. So I've had to dial that back. But just doing the stuff with the garden, it's the aggravation, when you have an injury and you never get any relief from it, just kind of progress and progress and progress and progress and progress until it gets to the point where it's like so severe. That's where I'm getting to. So I'm having to dial back the stuff to cooling my jets today. So I promised myself I'm resting today. So we're going through books today. I'm getting out all my old notes today. If you guys want to do a live later on this afternoon, I'm at home all day today and I am stuck in one spot. And I have charts and everything that we can go through. If you guys want to do a live tonight, we could do that. So yeah, I got a bunch of books that I've been reviewing and I haven't even had a chance to talk about them because I've been so busy with the garden. But, if you check, I put 2 videos on there, how the garden looks. It's coming along so great. The heirloom seed bank is going to be fantastic. I've already been collecting some stuff for the seed bank and, I'm just trying to get these beds basically like permanent beds where I can constantly just keep, when one gets done, we can switch it out. And then we constantly have these beds on a permanent basis, and we're just rotating them out. And, using all organic gardening and doing living soil, right? Because we want to heal the planet and heal ourselves at the same time. So I've been doing a lot on that, but it's time to take a break. So if you guys want to talk about whatever, let me know and we'll talk about it today. We could even do a live this afternoon. I hope that you guys are still looking at the channel, and thanks for being along with me and being patient these past 3 weeks that we haven't done much content because we've been busy outside trying to get our food resources together, try to help the planet and try to do what we can in our community. So with that, when you come and find me, I'll be here. We're living the past, present, and the future all at the same time. It's been 112 minutes. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share the videos. And as always, thank you for watching Sacred Enzyme and have a wonderful day. And I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.